The WNBA is in complete chaos right now, and nobody's talking about the seismic roster moves happening behind closed doors while the entire league sits frozen in a free agency moratorium. Multiple sources across front offices and player camps are confirming that at least one franchise is secretly orchestrating what could become the most dominant super team in WNBA history, strategically using the CBA negotiation freeze to mask negotiations that would normally trigger immediate media scrutiny and fan backlash. According to front office sports reporting on January 11th, the WNBA and WNBA-PA agreed to a moratorium freezing all free agency transactions, including qualifying offers, core designations, signings, and negotiations until a new collective bargaining agreement gets finalized, which means teams cannot officially make moves, but the behind-the-scenes chess game for superstar talent is happening right now, in ways the league has never seen before. The Athletic reported on January 12th that this moratorium prevents the complications of managing free agency within both the old salary cap framework at $1.5 million per team and the incoming salary structure, where ESPN projects the cap will jump to $5 million per team starting in 2026, with max salaries exploding from $249,000 to over $1.2 million when you factor in revenue sharing. That creates the perfect storm for front offices to have private conversations with star players about what a roster could look like under the new financial reality without the public pressure of official offers and competitive bidding wars playing out on social media. League insiders are whispering that at least two teams are aggressively targeting multiple All-Stars in what would be unprecedented roster consolidation. And the fact that almost every veteran in the WNBA is a free agent right now because players signed short-term deals last year anticipating the CBA increase makes this the single greatest talent reshuffling opportunity in league history. Right now, there are over a dozen all-star caliber players sitting in free agency limbo, and the moratorium that started January 9th gives front offices weeks or potentially months to recruit without the normal January frenzy, where decisions get made in 72-hour windows. The strategy some teams are employing is recruiting multiple stars simultaneously by showing them financial projections and roster construction plans that wouldn't be possible under the old cap, essentially saying, if you commit now before free agency officially opens, we can build this specific roster around you, but if you wait until the moratorium ends and bidding wars start, we might not have the cap flexibility to make it happen. 6 teams are fighting for playoff survival right now, and another 6 are rebuilding, which means there are maybe 3 or 4 franchises with the combination of cap space, draft assets, winning culture, and market appeal to actually pull off a super team. And the organizations best positioned are the ones who can leverage the expansion draft situation with Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire to their advantage. The expansion draft that happened in early December, according to the New York Times Athletic mock draft coverage, created 48 new roster spots between the Tempo and Fire. But more importantly, it stripped talent from existing rosters because teams could only protect 5 players in the first 6 rounds, compared to 6 players in last year's Golden State expansion draft. That means veteran role players and young prospects got exposed and selected by Toronto and Portland, which opened up roster spots and cap space on contending teams that are now positioned to consolidate star power instead of spreading resources across depth pieces. The expansion draft rules reported by ESPN on December 11th allowed each team to protect just 5 players initially, meaning franchises had to make brutal decisions about who to expose, and smart front offices intentionally left certain players unprotected, knowing Toronto or Portland would take them and free up a roster spot and salary obligations that could be reallocated toward a superstar in free agency. One Western Conference team that made the playoffs last season is rumored to have orchestrated exactly that scenario, exposing a solid rotation player who made around $170,000 on a guaranteed deal, watching Toronto select her in round 4, and now having that roster spot and cap hit available to pursue an all-star level talent who will command $800,000 or more under the new CBA. The genius of the move is that it happened in December, before the free agency moratorium started, so by the time the CBA gets finalized and signings can officially happen, that team will already have months of relationship building and roster pitches completed with their target, while other franchises are just starting their recruitment. League sources suggest that team has been in deep conversations with 2 former All-Stars about forming a big 3 that would instantly make them finals favorites, and the pitch involves showing them how the new $5 million team salary cap allows them to build a 6 or 7 player core of legitimate starters instead of the old model where teams could maybe afford 2 max players and had to fill out the roster with minimum contracts and hardship signings. The contrast to how WNBA dynasties have been built historically makes this moment so unprecedented. The Houston Comets' 4 straight championships from 1997 to 2000 came from a core of Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, and Tina Thompson, who grew together as the league launched and stayed together through loyalty and limited free agency movement in an era where player empowerment didn't exist. The Minnesota Lynx dynasty that won 4 titles between 2011 and 2017 was anchored by Maya Moore, Lindsay Whalen, Serafina Augustus, and Rebecca Brunson, a mix of draft picks and smart free agent additions that accumulated over years of patient team building by front office executive Cheryl Reeve, who also coached the team. The Las Vegas Aces' back-to-back championships in 2022 and 2023 featured Aja Wilson as the homegrown draft pick, surrounded by strategic acquisitions like Kelsey Plum via trade and Chelsea Gray and Candace Parker in free agency. But even that was incremental roster construction, not wholesale super team assembly. What sources are describing now is different. This is a team, or possibly 2 teams, attempting to land 3 or even 4 all-star level players in one offseason through a combination of free agency signings, strategic trades that could happen once the moratorium lifts, and potentially convincing stars to take slightly less than max money so the team can fit more elite talent under the cap. The model being discussed behind closed doors reportedly resembles the NBA's Golden State Warriors adding Kevin Durant to a 73-win core, or the Miami Heat's Big 3 of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh back in 2010. Moments that fundamentally shifted competitive balance and forced the rest of the league to either build their own super teams or accept being outmatched for years. The difference is the WNBA has 144 roster spots across 12 teams compared to the NBA's 450 spots across 30 teams, which means talent consolidation has exponentially more impact because if one team controls 4 of the league's top 15 players, the remaining 11 franchises are fighting for scraps. The free agency freeze actually accelerates this dynamic instead of preventing it. USA Today reported on December 3rd that the moratorium allows teams to avoid making qualifying offers to players that are unlikely to sign under the expiring CBA with its lower compensation thresholds, meaning organizations can wait until the new salary structure is finalized and then make massive offers that blow away the old market rates. A player who might have gotten $200,000 on a 1-year deal under the old CBA could now command $700,000 on a 3-year deal under the new agreement. And teams with cap space are using that financial gap as a recruiting weapon by telling stars your earning potential just tripled. So let's build something special together while we have this once-in-a-generation economic shift. The players who are rumored to be in active discussions about forming a super team include multiple former MVPs, multiple scoring champions, multiple Defensive Player of the Year candidates, and multiple Olympic gold medalists, which, if true, would create a roster construction imbalance the league has never experienced. The franchises most frequently mentioned in these backroom conversations are teams that finished in the playoff picture last season, have strong coaching situations, play in markets with growing women's basketball fan bases, and have front office leadership with credibility among player agents and the WNBA PA. One Midwest team that exceeded expectations last year is reportedly the most aggressive pursuer, leveraging their young superstar who is already on a rookie contract as the foundational piece, and telling veteran all-stars they can join a championship core without sacrificing money because the salary cap explosion creates room for 4 max-level contracts if they structure deals creatively using incentives and revenue-sharing bonuses. Another Western Conference team that underperformed relative to talent last season is rumored to be pitching a total roster reset, moving on from aging veterans whose contracts expire and replacing them with 2 or 3 stars in their prime who want to play together, essentially admitting the previous era didn't work and offering a clean slate with new facilities and organizational commitment. The expansion draft fallout makes both scenarios possible because Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire also have cap space to pursue stars, which means every franchise is competing not just against the 11 existing rivals, but also 2 expansion teams with blank rosters and massive financial resources. The New York Times Athletic reported on December 3rd that the Tempo and Fire can choose as many unrestricted free agents as they wish, but can only designate one as a core player, which theoretically allows them to sign multiple all-stars and build an instant contender instead of suffering through years of rebuilding. If an expansion team convinces 2 or 3 elite players to join their inaugural roster by offering max contracts, great coaching, and the chance to build a legacy as the faces of a new franchise, that removes those stars from the pool available to existing teams and forces everyone else to adjust their plans. The nuclear option some insiders fear is Toronto or Portland landing one legitimate MVP candidate and surrounding her with 3 or 4 all-star level talents who want a fresh start, creating a situation where an expansion team immediately threatens for a championship while legacy franchises struggle to keep their cores together. The CBA negotiations that are causing the moratorium are expected to conclude sometime in the next few weeks or months, with both sides motivated to finalize a deal before training camps would normally start in April. ESPN reported on January 9th that talks are underway and both the league and union are working toward an agreement that dramatically increases player compensation and revenue sharing while avoiding a work stoppage that would cancel or delay the 2026 season. The moment a new CBA gets ratified, the free agency moratorium ends and teams can officially make offers, which means there will likely be a 48 to 72-hour explosion of signings as pent-up demand from 3 months of frozen transactions gets released all at once. Every general manager in the league is preparing for that moment right now, finalizing their target lists, having agents on speed dial, and getting ownership approval for contract offers that will be submitted within minutes of the moratorium lifting. The teams that have been doing the most aggressive behind-the-scenes recruiting during the freeze will have a massive advantage because their targets will already be mentally committed and the official signing becomes a formality, while franchises that waited or didn't have the relationships to recruit during the moratorium will be scrambling to make competitive offers to second and third-tier free agents after the top stars are already locked up. Sources suggest at least one super team will be revealed within the first week of free agency opening, with announcements coming rapid fire as the pieces fall into place, and the competitive balance implications will be immediate and controversial. Fans of teams that lose their star players to the super team will feel betrayed and angry, questioning why their front office couldn't keep the core together or didn't make aggressive enough pitches. Fans of teams that pull off the super team will be ecstatic, but also nervous about championship or bust pressure and the backlash from the rest of the league. Media coverage will be non-stop for weeks as analysts debate whether super teams are good for the WNBA's growth or bad for competitive balance, whether players have too much power or front offices should have protected their assets better, and whether the league should implement rules to prevent future talent consolidation like the NBA did with various salary cap restrictions and luxury tax penalties. The expansion draft already happened, so that variable is locked in. The free agency moratorium already started, so the timeline is set, and the CBA negotiations are actively happening, so the financial framework will be finalized soon. What remains unknown is which team or teams are actually succeeding in their super team recruitment, which stars are legitimately considering teaming up versus which are using the rumors as leverage for better offers from their current teams, and whether the WNBA as a league will intervene with trade restrictions or salary cap rules to prevent the most extreme versions of roster consolidation. The Players Association has historically opposed any restrictions on player movement and star power concentration because it's their leverage against team owners. So expecting the union to agree to rules that limit where players can sign is unrealistic. That means front offices and fans should prepare for a new era where 2 or 3 super teams dominate the league for the next several years, forcing everyone else to either rebuild around young draft picks or attempt their own star consolidation to keep pace. The historical examples of how super teams impact league dynamics in other sports offer clues about what's coming. When the Miami Heat formed their Big Three in 2010, the NBA saw an immediate arms race with other contenders like the Lakers, Celtics, and Thunder trying to add pieces, while smaller market teams fell into tanking strategies to accumulate draft picks because competing against stacked rosters felt impossible. The Golden State Warriors dynasty from 2014 to 2019 featured 4 All-Stars and created a 2-tiered league where everyone knew Golden State was winning the title and the only drama was who would lose in the finals. The WNBA, with its smaller roster sizes and fewer teams, could experience even more extreme competitive imbalance because if one team has 4 of the league's top 12 players, basic math says they should win 70 to 80% of their games unless injuries or chemistry issues derail them. The legacy question for the players who join a super team will be whether championships won with overwhelming talent advantages count as much as championships earned with more balanced rosters. Ajay Wilson's 2 championships with the Aces came with loaded rosters, but nobody questioned her legacy because she was clearly the best player and carried the load in finals performances. If a super team forms where 3 players of relatively equal caliber team up and dominate for multiple years, will all 3 get credit, or will fans and media diminish their accomplishments as inevitable given the roster construction? Breanna Stewart's legacy discussions already include debates about whether her championships with Seattle and New York were more impressive than individual excellence on mediocre teams like Maya Moore delivered in Minnesota before the Lynx became a dynasty. The next generation of WNBA stars forming super teams will face those same debates, amplified by social media and the heightened scrutiny that comes with the league's explosive growth over the past 3 years. The expansion draft, the free agency moratorium, the CBA negotiations doubling or tripling salaries, and the behind-the-scenes super team recruitment are all converging into what will likely be remembered as the most transformative offseason in WNBA history. Sometime in the next few weeks or months, the moratorium will end, the signings will be announced, and we will know which franchise pulled off the ultimate roster construction heist by landing multiple All-Stars who want to play together. The rest of the league will be forced to react immediately through trades, their own free agent pursuits, or accepting a multi-year rebuild while the super team competes for championships. 12 teams will become have and have-nots based on who secured star talent and who lost their best players to consolidation. And the competitive balance that made the 2025 season so entertaining with multiple legitimate contenders could disappear in favor of a top-heavy league where 2 or 3 rosters are clearly superior. And if that super team does form and dominates for the next 3 to 5 years, the conversation will shift to whether the WNBA needs structural changes to prevent future talent consolidation, whether the Players Association will ever agree to restrictions on movement, and whether smaller market teams can survive financially if they're locked out of contending for extended periods. The stakes right now are massive, and the decisions being made in private conversations between star players, their agents, and front office executives will shape the league's trajectory for the rest of the decade. We will keep tracking every development, every rumor, every front office move, and every player's social media post that offers clues about where the dominoes are about to fall.